The war between Earth and the Zellery Empire had finally ended. After 7 long years of battles in deep space, destroyed colonies, and heavy losses on both sides, a peace treaty was signed. Earth had won. The human forces had pushed the Zellery back to their home planet, and now the proud alien empire was on its knees to show full surrender. The Zellery Emperor offered Earth a strange kind of prize. Each top soldier from the Earth forces could pick a reward money, alien weapons, land, on new planets, or even royal members of the Zellery family. It was a political move, meant to humiliate the Empire and also strengthen ties between the two worlds. Captain David Rourke, a famous war hero known for bravery and sharp thinking, stood in front of the Zellery throne. He had saved hundreds of lives, defeated enemy fleets, and once flew a broken ship through an asteroid field to rescue a trapped unit. The press loved him. Other soldiers respected him, and now it was his turn to choose. The room was silent. On one side stood powerful, alien weapons glowing with energy. On the other side, a group of royal family members waited in chains, though they were not treated cruelly. All of them were tall, proud, and graceful, all except one. At the very end of the line stood a fragile figure. She was small and thin. Her skin was a soft lavender color. Her eyes were wide and quiet, like she didn't belong there. Her hair was silver blue and her posture was weak. She looked like a gentle breeze could push her over. "Princess Yellari," whispered one of the officers standing near David, the youngest daughter. "She's sickly, useless." Everyone thought David would pick a weapon or a powerful princess. But after a long pause, he raised his hand and pointed. "I'll take her," he said. The entire hall went silent. "Are you sure?" asked the Earth. "General Captain, you can have anything, even the main palace itself." David nodded. "I want her." Princess Yellari looked up, surprised. Her eyes met his. There was no fear in them, only confusion. The other soldiers whispered among themselves. Some laughed quietly. "Why would he pick the weakest one?" someone asked. "He could have taken a queen or a warship." But David didn't listen. He walked over to Yellari, kneeled slightly, and said in a low voice, "Don't worry, I'm not here to harm you." Her lips parted slightly. She hadn't spoken in days. Her guards said she didn't talk much, if at all. David leaned closer and added, "I saw you on the battlefield once. You've saved a child. You're not weak, you just hide it." Yellari's eyes widened. For the first time in many years, her voice came out, soft and trembling. "You remember that?" she asked. He nodded. The guards released her and handed her to David. She stood beside him, quiet and unsure. The journey back to Earth was long, but peaceful. Yellari didn't say much. David didn't push her. He gave her space, food, and warmth. On the ship, he arranged a small room for her, decorated with simple plants and soft lights. No chains, no guards. When they reached Earth, the media was waiting. Pictures of David and Yellari were everywhere. Some news channels mocked the choice. Others said it was a strange strategy. "The great war hero has a soft heart," one headline read. "Is this love or madness?" asked another. But David stayed silent. He reported back to base, requested medical care for Yellari, and asked for privacy. Yellari, still weak, sat by the window in her new room, watching Earth's blue sky. She had never seen such open air before. Her home was full of smoke and heavy clouds. David brought her tea one day. "I know this isn't easy," he said, "but I believe there's more to you than people think." Yellari finally turned to him and asked, "Why did you pick me?" David smiled. "Because you're the only one who tried to help others during war. That takes more courage than fighting." Yellari lowered her eyes. She remembered that moment when she ran across the battlefield to help a wounded child. The pain, the energy it took, the fear she felt. She also remembered how her own people scolded her afterward. "You are not a warrior," they told her. "Stay hidden. Stay silent." "I wasn't supposed to help anyone," she whispered. "They said it made me look weak." David shook his head. "That's where they're wrong." Days passed. Yellari began to open up. She talked more, asked questions about Earth, about humans, about music and animals. David showed her birds in the park, told her stories of Earth's oceans, and gave her books to read in her language. One evening, while David was talking with the base doctor, something strange happened. A nurse screamed. David rushed into Yellori's room. She was lying on the floor, glowing faintly. Her body shook, and a strange pulse of energy spread around her. A dying plant in the corner of the room suddenly came back to life. Its leaves turned green. Flowers bloomed in seconds. Yellori opened her eyes, gasping. David ran to her side. Happening? She looked at him, pain in her face. I used too much energy. I thought I was better now. What kind of energy? He asked. She didn't answer. She closed her eyes and whispered, You should not have chosen me. David held her hand tightly. No, he said. I chose right. Outside the room, the nurse stared at the blooming plant, her mouth wide open. Something was happening. Something special. Captain David Rourke knew this was only the beginning. Princess Yellori rested in her bed, still weak after the strange energy burst. David sat quietly beside her. His eyes were full of concern. The plant in the corner of the room still stood tall, its leaves shining. It had been nearly dead before. Now it looked like it had just been picked from a garden. David couldn't forget what he saw. Yellori's skin had glowed, her eyes had turned silver for a moment, and life had returned to the plant. No human had ever seen anything like that before. She finally spoke in a low voice. I didn't mean for you to see that. David leaned forward. What was it? Yellori looked away. Her hands trembled in her lap. It's my curse, my secret. The reason I was never allowed to leave the palace. David stayed silent, letting her speak at her own pace. I was born with a rare gift, she continued. In my world, they call it the touch of life. My body carries energy that can heal. Wounds, sickness, even dying plants or animals. Every time I use it, it takes a piece of my strength. I become weaker. David frowned. So you're not frail because you were born sick. You became this way by helping others. She nodded slowly. Yes, every time I helped, they said I was hurting the royal image. A princess shouldn't look weak. I was told to hide, to stay silent. David's heart ached. They punished you for helping others. They feared what they didn't understand. My power is rare, maybe even forgotten by most of my people. Only a few in the royal family knew. My own father called me a quiet shame. David clenched his fists. You saved a child on the battlefield. That's what I saw. I never forgot. Yellori gave a small smile. You were the only one who looked at me with kindness. That night, David spoke with his closest friend, Lieutenant Mara Chen, a skilled medic and his former teammate. She's not weak, he said, too. Mara, she's powerful in a way we don't understand. Mara raised an eyebrow. Do you think this power is why she's so frail now? She said it drains her. Every time she heals, her energy fades. Mara nodded slowly. That's amazing. And dangerous. If someone else finds out, they might try to use her. David's eyes turned serious. That's what I'm worried about. He requested all surveillance in Yellori's room be removed. He wanted no one to spy on her. He told the base officials that she needed quiet and recovery time. Most accepted the request, believing she was harmless, but not everyone agreed. Some officers, jealous or suspicious of David's choice, began asking questions. Why did he pick the weakest one? What was she hiding? Unknown to David, one of the alien ambassadors from the Zelari Empire, still working under Earth's observation, had heard rumors of a light healer in the royal bloodline. That ambassador, named Ryan, was once a royal guard. It long believed that Yellori's powers were dangerous for the Zelari image. He decided to watch her more closely. Meanwhile, Yellori continued to grow stronger under David's care. He made her food from Earth's soft vegetables, taught her how to use a touchscreen, and even introduced her to music. She loved soft piano, sounds, and the chirping of birds. She called Earth a place full of breathing color. They spent hours talking about the stars, about dreams, about peace. One day, David asked, Do you ever wish to go back? Yellori shook her head. There was no kindness there. Here I feel seen for the first time. He smiled gently. You are more than a symbol. You are someone worth knowing. But even as she smiled, shadows moved in the background. A week later, David had to leave the base for a short mission. He gave strict orders to keep Yulari safe. Mara checked on her regularly, but that night, while everyone slept, someone entered the garden near Yulari's room, dressed in Earth soldier armor. The figure moved fast and silent. The guards didn't see him. The cameras had been shut off by someone from the inside. The door to Yulari's room opened slowly. She woke up, sensing something. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. The man removed his helmet. "Brought shame to our name," he hissed. "The humans will use you. You should never have been chosen." Yulari stood up slowly, weak but calm. "They did not use me. They saved me." Ryan stepped forward. "You are a danger to both our worlds. Your power, your healing, it should not exist." Yulari didn't move. "You don't understand. I can help." He raised a small silver device. "No, princess. You must be forgotten." Before he could press it, someone shouted from the hall. It was Mara. She tackled Ryan before he could activate the weapon. The device fell and slid under the bed. Guards rushed in. Ryan was captured, but in the fight Yulari had been pushed. Her body hit the floor hard. She didn't move. Mara knelt beside her. Yulari, Yulari, can you hear me?" David returned the next morning and ran straight to the room. He found Yulari pale and quiet. The fall had taken a toll. Her energy was nearly gone. But something else was happening too. The blooming plant in the corner had withered again. Its flowers had turned dark. David looked at her, afraid. "Is your gift fading?" Yulari opened her eyes slowly. "I used too much before. I'm not sure how much is left." David took her hand. "Then don't use it anymore. Just rest." She gave a weak smile. "I used to think this gift made me less. Now I know it's what makes me. Me." David's heart was heavy. He knew now that choosing her was not just a choice of kindness. It was a turning point. Yulari was not just a quiet princess. She was something much more. And others would want. That power, some to protect, some to destroy. He would have to make a decision. Not as a soldier, but as someone who had found something he never expected: hope. The attack on Yulari changed everything. Ambassador Ryan was taken into custody. During questioning, he refused to speak. He only said one thing again and again: the touch of life must not survive. Captain David Rourke sat in the base commander's office, staring at the report. Yulari was stable, but weaker than ever. Her pulse was slow. Her skin had lost its soft glow. The doctor said she needed rest, but no one could explain how her body truly worked. The commander, a man named General Hurst, looked at David with a heavy expression. "You should have told us about her ability."
They were
allies with the Zelari. Now, keeping secrets isn't wise. David stayed calm. "It wasn't my secret to tell, and her gift isn't a weapon. She heals." General Hurst sighed. "That's what worries me. Something like this can change everything. If her power is real, there are people on Earth who would try to use her for their own goals." David stood. "She's not a tool. She's a person, and she's under my protection." The general nodded slowly. "Then protect her. But watch. You're back. Some people may already know." Meanwhile, Yulari was in her room, sitting by the window. Mara sat nearby, reading a book aloud. Though Yulari's body was weak, her mind was sharp. Her eyes followed every word, every sentence. "Thank you," Yulari whispered. "You saved me." Mara smiled. "I don't like bullies." And Ryan was. Worse than that, Yulari hesitated. Or maybe more like him. "My gift is older than most Zelari remember. It was once common, long ago, before the Empire rose. Back then, healers were honored." "What happened?" Mara asked. "They were too powerful," Yulari said softly. "Some used their gift to stop wars. Others refused to serve kings. So the rulers called them traitors. Many were removed quietly. Their history was erased. Only stories remain." Mara looked shocked. "So you're the last?" Yulari nodded. "Maybe." That night, David returned to Yulari's room. A small wooden box. "What is this?" she asked. He opened it. Inside was a thin silver chain with a green stone in the middle. "It's from my mother," he said. "She believed the stone could protect people from illness. It's probably just a story, but maybe it brings luck." Yalari touched the stone gently. "It's beautiful." He placed it around her neck. "You've given so much to others. Let this give something to you." Yalari smiled faintly. "You're different from most humans." David sat beside her. "And you're different from most Zalari?" They sat quietly for a while. Then Yalari spoke. "I want to tell you everything." David listened as she explained the full truth. Her gift had started when she was a child. She healed a wounded bird that fell from the sky. Her mother saw it and was terrified. She locked Yalari in a private part of the palace. Only her personal maid and a few guards knew the truth. Yalari continued, "But I couldn't stop, kept helping secretly, quietly, and every time I grew weaker, my skin faded, body shrank, my voice became soft. They said I was cursed." David clenched his jaw. "No, you were brave. You chose kindness even when it cost you everything." Yalari's eyes shone with soft tears. "I never told anyone until you." David reached out and held her hand. "Now you're not alone." Across the base, someone was listening, deep in the control center. A scientist named Dr. Naylor had installed a secret device in the wall days ago. He had been ordered to monitor Yalari by a private medical group that wanted to study alien genetics. He had seen the glowing plant. He had heard about her healing. Now he knew the truth. "She can change medicine forever," he whispered. "We must have her." He sent a private message to his team. Subject confirmed. Begin Phase 1. The next morning, strange things began to happen. The lights in the medical wing flickered. Security doors stopped responding. A few guards reported headaches and nausea after visiting the lower labs. David was informed quickly. He visited the lab himself. Dr. Naylor met him there. "Everything is fine, Captain," Naylor said with a smile. "Probably a power issue." But David didn't trust him. That night, he returned to the lab when no one was watching. He used his clearance to enter the storage rooms. What he found made his blood run cold. Dozens of notes, files, and charts were pinned to the walls. Scans of Yalari's brain. Drawings of her energy pulses. A full plan titled Sample Collection Procedure, Alien Type X9. "They wanted to take her," David left quickly and called Mara. "We're moving her now." They packed what little Yalari had and quietly left the base before sunrise. Mara drove, and David watched the skies for drones. Yalari sat in the back seat, too weak to speak but alert. "Where are we going?" she asked softly, to someone. "I trust," David replied. Far from the city, they reached a safe house in the hills, surrounded by trees and silence. It belonged to an old Earth veteran named Jonah, who once fought with David. Jonah welcomed them. "No signals here. No cameras. No watchers. You'll be safe." Yalari rested in a sunlit room. Birds chirped outside. For the first time in weeks, she felt peace. David sat beside her. "We'll stay here until we know who to trust." Yalari looked at him with gentle eyes. "Why do you do this for me? You could have chosen anything." David leaned forward. "I saw a soul stronger than any warrior. You gave life even when it cost you yours. That's the kind of power the world needs." She smiled, tired but warm. "Then I will stay. Not because I must, but because I choose to." But peace would not last long. Far away, in a dark room, a shadowed figure watched the alert signal blink on a screen. Target moved. "Send retrieval team. We want her alive." The quiet forest surrounding the safe house was full of peace. Birds sang in the morning light, and the wind moved gently through the tall trees. Princess Yalari sat near a window, her eyes watching the sunrise. The warmth of the light made her feel calm. Captain David Rourke stood outside, talking with Jonah, the old Earth veteran who owned the safe house. David checked the security system while keeping his hand close to his weapon. He didn't feel safe, not yet. Inside, Mara was helping Yalari with her breakfast. The princess was still weak, but her body looked more stable. Her eyes had more color and her voice was a little stronger than before. I like this place, Ilari said quietly. It feels alive. Mara smiled. It's far from war and noise. That's probably why. Ilari nodded. But peace doesn't last forever. Late that evening, a humming sound filled the air. At first, it was soft like a faraway insect, but soon it grew louder. David stepped out of the house and looked up. 3 black ships hovered above the trees. They had no symbols, no flags, smooth metal and blue lights under their wings. Jonah cursed. They found us. Mara rushed to Yillari's room. We need to move, now. David grabbed his rifle. No time to run. We hold them here. Ships landed silently. 10 soldiers in black armor stepped out. Their faces were hidden under helmets. They moved fast and without words. David stood in front of the door with Jonah at his side. Mara helped Yillari into the back room. One of the armored men stepped forward. We are here for the alien female, he said in a robotic voice. Give her to us and no one will be harmed. David raised his weapon. She's under my protection. She belongs to science, the voice replied. You're interfering with research ordered by the council. She's not a lab experiment, David shouted. She's a person. There was a pause. Then the man said, then you will be removed. The battle started. Shots fired through the night air. Blue sparks lit up the trees. David and Jonah held the front, hiding behind large rocks and using the trees for cover. David moved quickly, hitting 2 attackers with precise shots. Inside the house, Yillari sat on the floor, her breathing uneven. Mara stood beside her, holding a small energy pistol. Yillari looked up. David is hurt. Mara frowned. I can feel it, she whispered. His heartbeat changed. She stood up, swaying on her feet. The necklace David gave her, his mother's green stone, glowed faintly around her neck. Mara tried to stop her. You can't go out there. It's too dangerous. I have to, Yillari said. I must protect the one who believed in me. Before Mara could argue again, Yillari walked out. David had taken a hit to the shoulder. He was still standing, but blood ran down his arm. The attackers moved closer, step by step. One of them raised a shock weapon, aiming directly at him. Suddenly, soft light shone behind David. I walked through the smoke and sparks, her body glowing gently. Her silver blue hair floated slightly, like touched by a breeze. The green stone around her neck burned with energy. Stop, she said firmly. The attackers turned toward her. One of them fired a stun blast. The energy bolt hit her, but instead of falling, her body absorbed the light. Her eyes turned silver. She raised her hand, and a wave of calm pushed out in all directions. The trees stopped shaking. The attackers froze in place. Their weapons fell from their hands. David turned to look at her. His pain faded. He felt warmth fill his body as she reached out and touched his shoulder.
Ow.
The wound closed slowly. The bleeding stopped. You came out, he said. Amazed. I had to, she replied. I won't let them take away what little peace I found. The attackers began backing away. Their leader tried to lift a small device from his belt, but Jonah tackled him to the ground before he could use it. One by one, the black armored soldiers were captured. An hour later, Earth military support finally arrived. General Hurst himself came to the safe house. He looked at the captured soldiers and the damage to the forest. We tracked their signal, he said. They were not working for any official department. They were rogue scientists from a private company. David stared at the soldiers. They would have taken her, cut her open, all for research. General Hurst looked tired. This is exactly why we need more rules about alien contact. He turned to Yillari, who stood quietly beside David. You saved everyone, the general said. That wave of energy, what was it? Yillari answered softly. It's part of me. I don't fully understand it, but it responds to emotion. When I protect, it becomes stronger. Hurst nodded. You've shown more courage than many of our soldiers. You have my respect. David stepped forward. We need her to be recognized as a guest, not a subject. Full protection. The general thought for a moment. Done, she will be placed under United Earth protection. No one touches her without your approval. Yalari finally smiled. Next few days were calm. Yalari stayed in the forest house with David, Mara, and Jonah. Her energy still needed time to rebuild, but her heart was strong. Every evening, she sat under the sky, watching stars. One night, David joined her. I thought, I lost you, he said. You didn't, she replied. I found myself. David sat beside her. When I chose you back then, they said I was a fool. They laughed. Why did you choose me? She asked again. Softly, David looked at her. Because I saw something the others didn't. I saw light in your eyes? I saw someone who wanted to heal a broken world. She looked at the stars. You were the first to call me strong. You are, he said. Stronger than anyone I've ever met. They sat in silence above them. The stars shone like tiny dreams in the sky. And for the first time in her life, Yalari felt like she truly belonged not as a gift, not as a burden, but as herself. A full month had passed since the attack on the forest safe house. Princess Yalari had recovered more than anyone expected. Her skin now had a soft, healthy glow. Her silver blue hair no longer hung weakly now. It flowed gently behind her shoulders. The green stone on her necklace continued to shine. Always warm to the touch, Captain David Rourke watched her as she stood near the tall trees, arms stretched out, eyes closed. The wind moved through the leaves and the sunlight fell softly over her face. She looked like a part of nature now strong, calm, and peaceful. She's not the same, said Mara as she joined David. Something's changed in her. David nodded. She's grown, not just in power, but in heart. Do you think Earth is ready to understand her? Mara asked. I don't know, he replied, but I do know this she didn't come here to be understood. She came here to bring something better. I won't let anyone take that away. Back at Earth Council headquarters, the news of Yulari's powers had already reached leaders and scientists. Many wanted to study her, others feared her, but most agreed. She had done something no one else could. She stopped a battle without a weapon. A council meeting was held. David, Mara, and Yalari were all invited. The room was large and full of powerful people. Earth generals, science leaders, diplomats from alien species. Everyone was there to hear the truth about the frail alien princess who healed with her touch. David stood beside Yalari as the council asked questions. One man spoke first. Why did you choose her, Captain? You could have taken weapons, technology, even a throne. But you picked the weakest alien. David stepped forward. Ow. His voice was calm. But strong? I didn't pick her because she was weak. I picked her because I saw her do something no one else dared to. She ran into a battlefield to save a child. She didn't care about war or rules. She cared about life. It takes real strength. The room fell silent. Another council member asked, but do you believe she's safe for Earth? David looked at Yalari, then turned back. She's safer than any of us. She has more reason to hate war than anyone here, yet she brings peace. Yalari finally spoke. Her voice was soft, but filled with emotion. I don't want power. I don't want control. I only want to help. For so long I was told my gift was shameful, that it made me less. But now, I see that it can bring hope. If Earth will allow it, I wish to stay and serve not as a princess, but as a healer. Her words moved the room. Even the coldest faces looked thoughtful. General Hurst, who once doubted her, stood and said, let it be known. Princess Yalari is no longer a guest. She is a citizen under Earth's protection. Her gift will be used how she chooses, not how others demand. The crowd stood and clapped in the weeks that followed. Yalari began working with Earth's medical teams. She visited hospitals where children were sick. She walked through war zones where the wounded cried out for help. She used her power. Carefully, never too much. David stayed by her side always, making sure she rested when needed. Word spread fast. People on Earth and in space began calling her the light bearer. Her image appeared on posters, news screens, and even school books. But Yalari never became proud. She stayed quiet, gentle, and thankful. She always remembered the days she was hidden away, told to be silent. One day she asked David, "Do you regret choosing me?" He turned to her, eyes full of honesty. "Never. That moment changed everything, not just for you, but for me too." Smiled. "You saved me when I didn't believe I was worth saving. And you healed me in ways no one else could," he replied. They stood on a balcony, watching the sun go down. The orange sky made her skin glow softly. Birds flew across the horizon, and peace filled the air. "Do you think others like me still exist?" Yalari asked. "Maybe," David said. "But even if you're the last, you were enough." Later that year, an interplanetary peace conference was held. Yalari was asked to speak. David stood with her on the stage. She told her story not as a princess, not as a prize, but as someone who had been forgotten, and then found again. "I was once the weakest in a royal palace," she said to the crowd. "I was told my gift made me small, but on Earth, someone saw me. Not for what I could do, but for who I was." She turned toward David and smiled, and that was the day I began to live. The whole hall stood and applauded. Yellari's story. It was no longer a secret, it was a symbol. Back at their quiet home in the forest, Yalari and David lived in peace. They built a small healing center where people from different planets came for help, not just for sickness but for comfort, wisdom, and hope. Children ran in the gardens. Birds nested in the trees. Every evening, Yalari sat near the window, watching the stars. She still wore the green stone necklace, the one David gave her on her first hard night on Earth. One evening, as they sat beside each other, David looked at her with a smile. "You never asked why I carried that necklace?" he said. She laughed gently. "I just thought it was lucky. It was more than that," he said. "My mother wore it during the hardest times of her life." She said it reminded her that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and sometimes it heals. Yalari looked down at the necklace and touched it softly. "Then your mother was very wise." David reached for her hand. "You remind me of her. You don't shout, you don't fight, but you change everything." She looked into his eyes. "You're the reason I'm still here." They sat in silence as night fell. Stars lit the sky like glowing wishes. The wind moved through the trees, and the world felt whole. In the darkness, their bond was strong, not made of war or reward, or power, but of quiet truth. And that was the reason he chose her.